Yeah, we're all really, really excited about it. Nobody in our program has been there. That's one of the reasons that we chose Australia. And, we've been practicing all summer. The guys have put a lot of hard work in and Cooley. Now we get a chance to take this trip and build on what we've done this summer, get a chance to test ourselves on the court against some really good teams. We purposely wanted to go somewhere where the competition was really, really stiff. 3 of the teams we play are from the NBL First Division, which is their pro league in Australia. And there's some really, really good teams there in that league. One of the teams we play, Melbourne United, was one of 3 NBL teams that was selected to come over here this fall to play NBA preseason games. So I told the guys it's pretty neat. You'll literally be playing against the same team that Russell Westbrook is playing against in a couple months. So yeah, we're fired up. We're looking forward to getting on the plane.
International rules, coach, with the FIBA ball, shot clock, and everything?
Yeah, all those rules apply when you go over there. We're on their soil. We're in their home court, so we're going to play with their rules. We've been practicing with some of those rules. We've been practicing, obviously, with a short clock. We have the longer three-point line up in Cooley, the wider lane. But I didn't want our guys this summer to get too worried about some of that stuff. We'll obviously give them a great understanding before we play over there of things like 8 seconds in the backcourt. The timeouts are a lot different. You can't throw the ball in the backcourt from the front court when it's out of bounds, a bunch of stuff like that. I've coached USA basketball a few times, and usually the kids adjust pretty well to that stuff. It just takes a little bit of time.
How different will this trip be now that you're a little more established, you know the players, compared to the one to China a couple years ago?
Well, the trip to China was just so different in that it was during the season. So some of the things that you aim for on a foreign tour, we really weren't able to do during that time, just because it was during the semester. We had study hall every day. We're preparing for a regular season game, and it's just there's a lot more stressors at that time, as Coach Roos likes to call them. With this trip or other foreign tours that we've taken in the past, you get to 10 days of practice, then you get on the plane, and the games are very, very important, but they don't count on your record, so you can experiment with some things, and you can play different lineups and maybe play some young guys more than you would if they were, games that counted on your record. And then the team building aspect of it will be really, really good.
Was this trip 100% your idea, or was it in place that you guys were going to be, Jordan was going to be taking the trip this summer? Was this all you?
No, I don't think the program has taken the trip since Tom Penders was here in the 90s. I don't know exactly why. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, when I first got here, kind of looked at our roster, and I felt like going into this third year would be a year that would make a lot of sense to go overseas, because I thought we would have some guys returning that had a decent amount of experience, and then hopefully a good group of guys coming in.
What have y'all done on the non-basketball side that had to take a course on Australian culture or something?
Yeah, we took a class. Our guys call it the Australia class, that they get college credit for, and is it Professor Evans? She did an unbelievable job, really, really good job with our guys, and it only worked, I think, so well because of her. She made it engaging with them. She, talked about all different types of things related to Australian culture, cuisine, animals over there like kangaroos. I think at one point she showed a fight between a kangaroo punched a guy. But, you know, she did a super job of just engaging the guys and getting those guys excited about what they're going over there to experience. And I think if we hadn't had that course, they would be going over there really only thinking about the basketball. But with the course, there's a real understanding that, hey, I'm literally going to another continent, in another part of the world, with a whole different culture, and get a chance to learn about other people. And I think that'll be a great part of the trip.
What are you most, I guess two questions. One, in the course, did she say if the toilet spin the opposite direction than flush? and on a personal, what are you looking forward to doing? What are some of the things that you've got circled on the calendar, on the itinerary, that you're really just excited about?
I don't know the answer to the first one. The second one, I mean, I'm a pretty boring guy, so I'm just looking forward to being over there with our team, and you know, some of our staff's wives are going, including my wife. So I'm looking forward to you know, just spending time with our guys and our extended program. The last time we went on one of these trips, it was about 5 years ago. We went to Italy, and we didn't play good teams, so the basketball was the least memorable part of it. But just, you know, getting a chance to experience the Roman Coliseum, you know, as a team. And so when we go to Canes and you know, we're on a boat and guys can jump in the water and see the Great Barrier Reef, you know, that'll be something that we're looking forward to.
Is that course something that the whole staff did as well?
Just the players. We were different people on our staff were in there at different times, but we really wanted to be about the guys, and we wanted them to be able to engage, you know, with the professor and with the subject matter as much as possible without us. Sometimes when the staff is involved, like in the past we've done Navy SEAL training and the staff gets involved, the staff can be a little bit, you know, think it's about them, but it's about the guys. So we just did it with them.
Y'all finished all 10 practices yet?
Today's the last one, yeah.
Have you gotten out of these 10 deals what you wanted in terms of incorporating new guys?
Well, I mean, we've gotten some great practice time. We did something different, Brian, this year in probably our last 5 or 6 practices. We each day we took a player and we let him pick his team, who he wanted to play with in practice, and then we kept track of the records. So we've had, I think today will be 6 days where there's been a quote-unquote GM, where we've set a GM, and you know, we kind of look at what their record is, and we've made a pretty big deal out of just the teammate component of basketball and who you want to play with and why, and we always keep track of wins. I mean, we've always done that, but it's a way for us to prove certain points with guys.
Who's the best GM so far? Who's going to finish?
I mean, some of the guys have picked about the same team, but you know, it's interesting. You can pick teams based on different reasons, but I think one of the things that's happened is guys have realized, well, coaches are keeping track of this, so I better, you know, pick the very best team I can in order to try to win.
Who's usually the first pick?
They don't do it like that. I just say, hey, like today, James is a GM. Say, James, give me the 4 other guys you want to play with.
How's Obama been since stepping on campus?
He's been great. He's done a really good job becoming ingrained with our team, as have our other freshmen. Did a good job in his classes. Basketball-wise, he's been very competitive. His level of engagement has been impressive, and he's a really good player.
Have you noticed, you said
Yeah, just
teammate aspect of things?
ownership. That's a big part of it. I think, one of the things that we're trying to improve on in terms of our culture is carrying over the things that we promote and preach as a coaching staff and with our guys to when it matters most, and that's obviously the games. We haven't played any games this summer. We'll play some games, in the next couple weeks. But, a friend of mine who is a executive with an NBA team came and watched us practice last year, and then he stayed the next day and he watched the game. I think it was in January or February, and he said, "Wow, I was really impressed with the competitiveness in practice and guys' enthusiasm and spirit." And he said, "I didn't see it in the game." And I said, "Well, thanks for being honest, and that's good feedback." And obviously, that's one of our challenges, is to make sure that we do everything we can to get guys to take ownership of not just doing it in practice, but doing it, when those lights are on the brightest.
Shaka, when you guys go down there, how concerned are you, or I guess, how much does the win-loss matter over those 4 games compared to just seeing how these new pieces kind of blend together and fit, who plays well?
Yeah. I'll be surprised if we don't lose a game or two. Now, a lot of it's relative, obviously, to the other teams and who they have. They're pretty early in their training camps, so if they're at full strength, some of those teams probably should beat us. I mean, if you look at the rosters of who they've had, a couple of those teams have had on the roster at any given time 3, 4, 5 guys with extensive NBA experience and guys that have played for a long time professionally. So I'm not too caught up in that. It's more about how we play and different combinations. One good thing about losing is you gain a level of humility from it. So we shouldn't need that because of the season that we just had. But, it does, if you lose a game or two, it does, smack you across the face a little bit as a player or as a coach. But it's more about the specific elements of the game. And also, one thing I'm excited about is, these are professional players in Australia in a really good league. But our guys want to play in the NBA and think they're going to play in the NBA. So if you're going to play in the NBA, or if you're good enough to play in the NBA, all right, now you got a chance to measure yourself against, guys in a league that's probably one of the top 10 professional leagues in the world, but definitely not, the top.
Do you think they realize that challenge? Like, you've got guys like Andrew Bogut, Dellavedova who come from Australia. Do you think they realize what they're going to do?
No, I don't. And, we haven't spent a lot of time on that yet. We will over the next few days to start to indoctrinate them and just what they're about to be up against. But part of me kind of wants to see what they do anyway, and these guys, they have a very, very limited frame of reference in terms of basketball players out there internationally because, Mo and Matt and James played on the under 18 team, 18 and under team. A couple other guys maybe have had a couple experiences, but for the most part, they're very naive to what's out there in terms of pro basketball outside of the NBA. That depends on the day, but that's definitely a big question mark for us, is shooting. And we have some guys that can shoot, yes, to answer your question, but it's more about, do they make shots when they matter? And we had a lot of times last year where the ball would move and it would go to someone in the corner and they'd have an important shot for us. Let's say we're down 5 with 4 minutes left, a wide open 3, or it's a tie game or whatever it might be, and we'd miss a shot. And I'd say we probably missed that shot 90% of the time. last year, I can count on one hand the ones that we made. There was a big one against Texas Tech here that Eric Davis made. I can still see him in the corner making that shot, but there wasn't too many of those. So, we've been spending a lot of time on shooting. Guys have really worked hard this summer, getting extra work in outside of practice. And it'll be interesting to see how we shoot the ball over there. And then when we get back, it'll still be an emphasis. It's not like if we shoot it well over there, we come back and say, okay, this thing's solved and we're going to be, a great shooting team. I think the better a passing team you can be, it makes you a better shooting team. And we do have a better passing team than we had. We have to slow down. At this point in August, guys still go too fast, and we've got to slow down and make the right pass all the time. But that's typical of young guys, and particularly this time of year.
So either that, you've got some bigger guys that can pass down.
Yep.
How much difference does that make in
Yeah.
terms of whether it's spacing?
It just makes you more versatile in terms of what you're doing. A guy like Dylan can do different things. We're trying to play through those guys more. But, I always tell them to whom much is given, much is expected. So, if we're going to give you this opportunity we let Dylan get the rebound on defense and become the point guard. And, okay, if we're going to let you do that, then you got to make the right decision and not turn it over. And we've had mixed results so far this summer, but I think it's one of those things that the more and more that some of those guys work on that stuff, they have it in them. They just got to, learn to make the right play. But it makes us more versatile. Last year, we pretty much played, particularly, after we suspended Tevin, pretty much played with 2 5-men almost all the time. And Jarrett did a really good job of developing and growing with his, mid-range shooting and ability to put it down a couple dribbles. But, coming into the season, he was a center. And that was tough. That's the first time I've ever coached a team where you try to play 2 5-men together. It's hard for spacing reasons and passing reasons.
Have you had a chance to go and hang out during any of Tom Herman's football practices or anything like that? Because I see similarities with you two, the way you're trying to build a hyper-specific culture within your 2 individual programs, and you talk at all about just philosophies or anything like that?
I've enjoyed getting to know him. I think he's doing some really, really interesting things and neat things with his team, and he's just so proactive as a thinker. I've not been able to go to practice yet just because of all the stuff that we've had going on. I'd love to try to get over there tomorrow if they're going, or Saturday. We leave Saturday early afternoon. But yeah, I'm really excited for Tom and his staff, and just it seems like I run into the football players a lot in the freight elevator because where I park, that's kind of how I come up, and those guys just they have a bounce in their step, which is it's pretty neat just to see.
When you guys come back and put on the tape from those games over there, are there 1 or 2 key areas where you're going to be looking for growth in terms of the production on the hardwood?
Well, we've been working on pressing a lot, so that's something that we'll do. Now, again, when you play a really good, skilled team with older guys, we'll see how, and we're not great at it yet, but we'd like to do that more, this year than we have in the past. We have more depth than we had last year. So that's one thing that we'll definitely take a look at and see how we did. And then just offensively, our ability to share the ball, make the right play, execute different things. I'm hopeful that this is a team, again, because of Dylan and Mo and some of the skilled guys we have with size, that can do a little bit more offensively than we did last year, just in terms of what we try to run and execute. Matt's been steady. He's done what we want him to do, which is be a point guard, be a leader, get other guys shots. We were just in the office together earlier, and we were looking at the statistics from live play and practice, and he's like, I think 9th or 10th on our team in shot attempts in practice. And I said, hey, where are the guys that we need to be shooting the ball a lot? And so there were some guys that were 1, 2, 3 in shot attempts that need to be. And I said, you're doing a good job with that. He, like any other freshman, has got to learn that, playing hard in high school is one thing, and then playing hard in college is another thing. And that's been an adjustment for him. He's done a good job with that. I think, just the continual back and forth between confidence of feeling like, for any freshman, I can do it. I can make this big jump, and I can be an impact player. And then for Matt, in his position, putting confidence into other people and focusing on those around you. Just the back and forth between those two things is really big. But he's had a good summer.
Looking ahead to your 2018 recruiting class, how do you like how it's shaping up so far?
Well, I'm not going to talk about specific guys, but our staff's done a really good job with some guys, and we're excited about the way that class can shape up. We have some specific needs that we're really working on addressing with that class. I've also learned since I've been here, you don't know for sure, with guys leaving early. Well, one guy I know pretty for sure, but with certain other guys, you don't know for sure, and so you just got to plan as best you can accordingly. But I'm excited about who we're recruiting, and our staff has done a really good job in the state, and then also with some guys out of state.
Is it nice to be able to get into a car to recruit instead of having to get on a plane?
Yes, I think if you look at the best teams in the history of this program, they've had good players from Texas, and they've had good players from outside of Texas. They've had a really nice blend, and we're fortunate to be in a state that has a lot of good players, a lot of good talent, but we're also we want to make sure that we do the best we can to attract guys that fit us, and if those guys are from a long way away, if those guys are from outside the continental United States, we got to go wherever we got to go, and that's what we'll do.
Last year, you guys didn't have any eligible juniors. Now you've got 3. What have you seen from those guys, particularly Eric and Kerwin, after coming off the season that they came off last year?
Snoop's been really good. We're always on him about responding to when things go well. So I'm like trained to be hesitant to be too complimentary of guys like him, but he's probably been as good as anybody this summer, and the biggest difference has been his humility level has been just night and day. I think he's learned a lot in 2 years here, and so we're excited about what he can do. Last year going into his sophomore year, Eric Davis going into his sophomore year, those guys, they really, had a perception of the way they thought it would go individually for them, and then also to a lesser extent as a team. And we tried to battle this, but obviously not very well. They really were setting themselves up for a rude awakening, and that happened. And so I think they've gained some humility from that. We're trying to continue to build Eric back to like the arrogance level he had as a freshman, because that was good. If you can have that with humility, that's the magic formula. But Snoop's been really, really good, and Eric's been solid. You know, big key for him is going to be, making shots. If the guy can make 40% of his threes, he's going to have a good year. You know, we're going to have a good year. And then Dylan, the other junior, he's been terrific in terms of his approach, trying to get him to understand that he can, if he wants to, he can be the toughest, meanest, baddest dude on the court. But it's a mentality first before anything physical, before anything skill-wise. It's about just the approach that he takes.
Is there anything as the coaching staff that you all decided to change this year as far as just how you spend your time from day to day, whether it be weight training, how you're spending time in practice, just any changes from the last year?
You mean with the guys?
Just as far as anything,
Yeah.
you're running the program.
Yeah, I mean we're spending a lot more time on culture. We have what we call culture class every week, which is us sitting down as a program and talking about elements of our culture, the mindset that we want to take. We do different exercises. We try to get the guys talking as much as we can. The best ones have been when they lead the discussion. So we didn't do that last year. That's something that we're doing differently. Weights, have been pretty similar. I mean, Coach Roos is always adjusting his kind of philosophy because it's so specific to the player. You don't lift Mo Bamba the same way that you lift, Kerwin Roach. But those guys have worked really hard in there. They're doing a good job on there. The academic component of it, the guys did a really good job. They got right around a 3.0 in the spring semester. They've done a good job this summer. So, we're fortunate to have Kat and Melanie do a great job with them, so not much has changed there. I'd say the culture part is probably the biggest thing that we've done differently, and I've been on our staff left and right just about following up on that, and it's not just about us having a conversation as a group. We've got to find specific examples that we can get these guys to really grab hold of in their minds to understand what's going to create the carryover when we need it most.
Two last ones split up and Mo Bamba be a program transformer, even if he's here only 1 year.
Ask Brian. Just read his article.
Good point.
Well, I mean, on one hand, he can only do as much as the teammates that he's around and the group that he's with does as a unit. But on the other hand, basketball is a sport where one or two guys can make such a huge difference in a lineup or on a team. So yeah, I think he can really transform us in a lot of ways. This year, as you mentioned, you certainly anticipate to only have him for 1 year. And we're hopeful that at the end of this year, our staff, Mo, his teammates, have done such a good job that he's put himself in a position that he wants to be in, along with other guys on our team. But yeah, I mean, Mo's a special player in terms of the way that he can impact the people around him and impact the game on both ends. Now it's just a matter of, again, this is different about our sport than any other, figuring out how quickly he can do that. When a matter of months ago he was playing a high school game. So we're excited about it.
Who's been your most vocal guys on the team so far?
Most vocal on the court?
Or off the court, someone that doesn't kick to a team.
Our two most vocal guys in our program are probably Dylan and Eli, our two transfers. And it's interesting because, and obviously Eli is not eligible to play this year, but those guys have a perspective about them that nobody else has. And, one of the things that we talk about sometimes is what it means to be a student athlete at the University of Texas. And there's so many positives that come along with that. But it also, if you're not careful, can create a level of complacency or even entitlement if you don't battle those things. And that's a big part of, the cultural component that we've worked on. But see, those two guys have a different perspective, and they don't mind speaking up and letting their teammates know how they feel about certain things. So I would say those two. We're trying to get Matt to be more so, Andrew trying to get him to be more so, and they've both made strides in that area.